edition of the world's largest fintech fest, the Global Fintech Fest, organized by Payments Council of India and Fintech Convergence Council, the two councils of Internet and Mobile Association of India, along with National Payments Corporation of India. This fest is presented by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and supported by Niti Aayog, Startup India, and Invest India. I would also like to quickly thank our partners, our platinum partners, Visa, AWS, and PhonePe, our diamond partner, Cred, our country partner, Australian Government, our track partners, HSBC India and Refinitiv India, and our session partner, the UK Government Department of International Trade. The second edition of this summit is with the topic FinTech Empowering a Global Digital Economy and providing an in depth understanding of the latest business, policy, investment, and technology developments within the FinTech industry. We are here today to discuss a very interesting topic, which is the collaboration paradigm banks and FinTechs. This session is powered by the HSBC India, and we're glad to welcome our esteemed panelists. First up, our moderator, Mr. Siddharth Rungta, Country Head, Global Liquidity and Cash Management, HSBC India, along with our esteemed panelists, Mr. Amitabh Tiwari, Chief Innovation Officer, Razorpay, Mr. Omkar Srihathi, Co-founder and CEO, Karza Technologies, Ms. Priya Sharma, COO, CFO, and co-founder, Zest Money, and Mr. Connor Deegan, co-founder and CEO, Cashflow. Thank you for being a part of this panel today. And for the people on the platform, I would request all delegates to please post your questions on the chat window on the right-hand side. And when we have the last 10 minutes to end the session, we will try to respond to the questions. Thank you. And I would now request Siddharth to please take over.
Looks like Siddharth is back. Siddharth, are you?
Yes, am I audible now?
Loud and clear, just in time.
Okay. So I think it's the Murphy law. When something has to go wrong, it goes wrong. And despite all the tech testing and everything, sorry for this technical glitch. And just picking up from where I had left, I just wanted to say that I'm very delighted to have, four of the co-founders and the CXOs of four fintechs who have been very successful in their respective fields. And since we've lost a few minutes, probably we'll straight away dive into the conversation. And I think it'll be good to start with spending a few minutes on really talking about what are the factors that seem to be driving this collaboration between the banks and fintechs, which seems to have really strengthened over the last few years. Probably we can start with you, Amitabh, if you don't mind.
Sure, Siddharth, and great to have you finally in the panel. It happens to all of us. We have all gone through it every once in a while. This tech glitches. I was just getting started with the same exact thing that you just now spoke about, on how over the last decade or so, banks and fintechs how the whole contours of engagement have changed, right, over the last decade or so. I guess it started out by both entity types kind of looking at each other and thinking, who really owns the customer. I think customer ownership was one fundamental question which was at the crux of it a decade back, I remember, right? And that time, it was telcos as well who were about to become banks. And there was a lot of, I would say, apprehension, a lot of unanswered questions as to finally with whom is the customer ownership going to rest. I think a decade down the line, some of those things have got clarified. What fintechs have brought to bear, or what we have seen happening in the market, is that the customer today has become really discerning. The needs that today's customer has are well, I would say they're well enunciated. They are well spelled out. And if you do not meet those needs, then the customer is going to seek other avenues. And therefore, today fintechs are helping banks bring more customers, bring more business, bring better engagement with those customers, right? By providing ease, experience, and in many cases, better economics. At the same time, there are a few areas or a few aspects in which banks very clearly score, and which is where fintechs benefit from banks. Their experience of managing business cycles, their strength in compliance and understanding regulations, and especially in the Indian market where we've got a strong regulator, very pro-growth, but at the same time very, very aware and very committed to protecting the consumers' rights, right? So, it's important to understand regulations well, important to understand compliance well. And that's where, banks really help, they come in handy. And I guess, help in protecting the overall ecosystem. Also, let's not forget that all said and done, banks have a very important element, that of trust. Consumers included, you, me, and everybody on the panel, I'm sure, we trust banks. While fintechs do deliver great experiences, and there could be a sliver of the new consumers who do have that faith and trust in fintechs. End of the day, the trust that banks have built is many decades old, and with that trust and the superior distribution that banks have, I think it's a pretty complementing kind of collaboration, which has evolved over the last decade. And I think it's very exciting, what the next decade or so holds for us.
I think thanks, Amitabh. I can't agree with you more. I think it's all about complementing each other, and at the end of the day, delivering value to the end customer. I think that's what the customers are today looking for. I think banks and fintechs coming together and then creating a value proposition, delivering value to customers is what is very important in today's technology-driven, I would say, marketplace. So just moving ahead, since we spoke about the collaboration and the banks and the fintechs partnering, I think it will be good if we can make this a little real for the audience. And I'm sure that everybody would like to hear that what really goes behind a successful collaboration between a banks and fintechs. So in that context, I think if I may request Omkar and then Priya yourself to probably share a few examples, if possible, where you've kind of seen the bank and the fintech collaboration happening successfully, and what have been the learnings in terms of what works well. What are those success factors which one should really look for to ensure that the collaboration is successful?
Sure. It's taking forward from Amitabh itself, right? In terms of, in the end, it's merely focusing on the end consumer. And that's where basically I see multiple levels of collaboration or stage by stage growth in terms of how fintechs and banks would collaborate. And if I have to give you my perspective, it sort of moves three ways. So first and foremost, so if I were to understand correctly in terms of the overall size and scale at which banks operate, at times there is lack of agility in terms of meeting those, increasing customer demands. And to some extent, I would say the payments industry has also to some extent pampered most of our customers, where it was, say, I need a transfer within a day to in a few minutes, and I want to transfer now, right? And that's what the expectation has been set across all BFSI products, be it loans, be it accounts, be it payments or any other, right? So the consumers are moving in terms of requirements that I need it now. And that's where basically for as a bank or a financial institutions to overhaul most of those services at the back of how the processes, the compliances, the regulatory aspects have been set, it takes a good amount of time. At the same time, as a bank, you would not like to lose out on most of those customers, right? So partnership with fintechs, essentially the way we look at it is multifold. First and foremost is how banks can leverage on fintechs like ours to sort of automate, digitize through and through their entire backend processes, revamp the overall supply side of banking to meet the, I would say, the SLAs that consumers expect as a bank or from their financial institution or their fintech partner, right? At the same time, fintechs on the other side are also one of the sources of business, right? How do you partner, collaborate with them to get an early move into the market, start servicing some of these customers? And that's where some of those aspects which Amitabh mentioned, right? Look a decade back, who owns the end customer, right? It's something those have been sort of been over a period, those have matured, there is a lot more clarity, and basically that's the other servicing angle. And third area where we also see is how banks can further service fintechs, right? How they can provide various banking services, APIs, your LSP bridge, and a lot of those aspects that would be coming in, and how banks can further extend their services for fintechs to help them grow. And last and fourth, essentially, is how banks and fintechs can come together to serve their end consumers, right? Say, for example, we have sort of seen multiple, all of these or almost all of these aspects with banks or financial institutions. And a successful one, I would say, is basically that extends across all verticals of partnership. But specifically with HSB is something like where we work with the bank in terms of revamping or working in terms of digitizing their entire supply chain. At the same time, we consume a lot of services from HSBC. At the same time, where we can also go together to the market and basically serve larger corporate customers, SME customers together. Say, can we provide better diligence solutions for the end consumers? We see a lot of banks now providing GST filing services. They're providing tax filing services, better insights and MIS on their financial, better analytics of their fund flows. So those sort of insights can also be added on top of the banking solutions through fintechs to serve the end consumers, right? So there are multiple dynamics in terms of how banks and fintechs can work with each other. And a good or basically a successful collaboration is basically where both of them grow together, and it's basically spreads across as many options or as many opportunities as possible to sort of have that more ingrained and more joined to the hip sort of a growth.
No, thanks, Omkar. I think you very beautifully put the fact that there's usually a multi-dimensional partnership, which happens between banks and fintechs. I think co-creating solutions or taking solutions to the end customer is just one part of it. Priya, would you like to add in terms of, again, factors for a successful collaboration, and if you can make it a little real for the audience, if you have any examples to share?
Sure, absolutely. And first of all, thank you for having me here. It's indeed a pleasure to be part of this panel. So I think the way we think about this, and in general how we think about fintech in India, is there's two things, especially if you look at it from a consumer standpoint. I think fintech is all about, or the fintech revolution or the adoption in India is being led mostly by the smartphone, right? And I think we've seen that also play out, especially in the payment space, led by UPI. And what we have seen is that there are obviously 3 or 4 apps, which I think everyone is familiar with. They have become effectively the mobile interface or the way the consumer is interacting with their UPI payments. But actually, if you think about it, the entire railroads or the infrastructure is actually being provided by banks, right? So it's obviously NPCI, but then NPCI is effectively running on a bank-to-bank kind of a transfer. So that, I think, really encapsulates how we think fintech and banks can coexist. What fintechs are very good at doing is understanding user behavior. And one of the reasons why, the fintech revolution has taken off in the rest of the world, and this obviously started with Fintech 1.0 in 2007, 2008, is, as I said, it's mostly around smartphones. Because pre-smartphones, it was mostly financial technology, or there were obviously pieces that were being automated at the back end. And I think banks were the kind of face of things for the consumer. And then obviously they would have certain financial software, or they would have financial technology, right? And since 2007, 2008, and I think that has started happening in India from, say, 2014 or 2015 onwards, is that fintechs are at the forefront, and they are the ones who are touching the consumer, and they are the ones who are experimenting with consumer adoption. They are the ones who are also simplifying financial services for the consumer, and also small businesses for that matter. But then, the bank and the bank technology is the one who's effectively powering the ecosystem. And if you look at what has been happening in the rest of the world, especially in Fintech 1.0, and my background is that I've been working in Fintech for almost a decade, and my first half of my decade I was actually based in UK, and I've seen the Fintech 1.0 revolution there, where it was very much about Fintech taking on the banks, and this notion of fintechs will disrupt financial services or banking. And I think in India, from almost the get-go, it has been a lot more about collaborating with the banks working together with the banks, because I think we all understand that banks in India, they've definitely, firstly, in terms of technology, I do feel that they are still leaps and bounds ahead of some of the other jurisdictions in the West, more because obviously the digitization and the technology adoption in the banks happened a bit later on as compared to the rest of the world. So in terms of technology, the banks are actually pretty good. But what the banks are not good at traditionally is definitely understanding the mass market consumer. So while banks have tended to be very good at understanding or solving for the, let's say, the certain layer of the society or certain segments of society, they're not able to solve for everyone, for example. So in our case, we started out with the notion that we were very good at understanding consumers. We do a product that is now globally called Buy Now Pay Later, or effectively it's a form of digital checkout financing. And we very quickly realized that we needed to be obviously technology and product led. So we were much better at doing that. We were much better at working with, for example, e-commerce merchant to develop point of sale or checkout financing solutions for them. We were much better at understanding consumers. We were also better at understanding consumer risk, for example. And the way we then collaborate with the banks and also non-bank financial companies is basically we work with them, and they are effectively our balance sheet providers in certain respects. And now we're getting to a point where actually co-creating products with the banks, right? But the idea is that I do feel that going forward, fintechs are the future in terms of consumer adoption. Consumers, we are more nimble. We are able to cater to a wider spectrum of the consumer. We're obviously completely digital, and we have digitized in step with the needs of the consumer. Our consumer is someone who's on Zomato, Swiggy, Amazon, Flipkart, and we are able to bring that same kind of experience to the consumer, while maybe banks are not. And you see that, that story has really played out in the UPI world, as I mentioned. So I see this as a collaborative approach. I think banks are the backbone of this ecosystem, and I think in the short term, fintechs will be the front face, and the banks will be the backbone. I think in the medium to long term, we will start moving towards a bit more of a co-creation kind of a mode, where there will be deeper collaboration between the banks and the fintechs.
No, thanks, Priya, for your insights. In fact, I agree with you that the whole UPI was probably the watershed moment in terms of creating or enabling the environment or the ecosystem, leading to something which you called out, which is very important, is in terms of ability to experiment, okay, and really taking the digital propositions to the end consumer, to the masses, okay. And I think that was enabled in the environment, and I think fintechs being nimble, I think took the lead, in terms of making that happen. And I think, banks are probably catching up more in terms of, again, partnering with fintechs to make sure that at the end of it, you co-create solutions and take it to the end customers. I think we spoke about, obviously, the successful collaboration or the need to collaborate, and I think that seems to be going quite well. But just in terms of, for audience knowledge, despite best of the intents, to work together and collaborate, there are times, I'm sure, where, let's say, it's not that successful, in terms of collaborating and moving forward between banks and fintechs. So any insights in terms of what are the pitfalls to avoid? What are the don'ts, when it comes to the collaboration between banks and fintechs? With both, both the entities need to be aware of, to avoid the collaboration not succeeding or achieving the objective it started with. So any perspective on that? Maybe Amitabh, you may want to provide some perspective on that.
Sure. No, that's a great question, Siddharth, actually. I guess every time a new project is picked up by a bank team and a fintech team, it should all start with setting common goals. it's very important to know who, that both the parties are in it for the same end result or end objective and not for different objectives. So understanding the requirements which have brought the two entities together I think it starts with that. And often we are in a hurry to jump straight away into executing projects, right? Sometimes you have got regulatory deadlines or something else, and then you're just running as fast and as blindly as you can. But in most cases, when you are trying to co-create, like some of the fellow panelists spoke, when you're trying to create a solution for the market and you have to offer it jointly to customers, it's very important to align, and then it's equally important to also communicate in language that both the parties understand. Often it becomes a question of the difference in pace. It also becomes a question in not fully understanding what kind of approval hierarchies, metrics, etc. Exist in banks. To quote an example, there could be a compliance process in a bank, which probably the fintech may not even take very seriously, in the sense may feel that it will just require 24 hours to go through it, and it may actually require 24 days to go through it. So then it throws your entire project plan haywire. So it's very, very important, I think, that initial planning alignment and understanding the pace of both the organizations, also understanding very well who are the important key stakeholders, how does the approval process, etc., flows in a bank. Those things are critically important, I believe, right? What also I have at least noticed in some of the projects that I have been a part of is the need for both the parties to have sane voices who can pull them back. Look at a bank setup and look at a fintech setup, and for any project you will have people coming in from infosec, from product, from technology, from a whole lot of functions, right? And sometimes all of them may not be plugged into the overall framework or the picture of the project, and they might possibly only be aware of their own small part in the overall project. In such cases, some of these stakeholders tend to come in, give their view, and then possibly not work with the view of moving the project along, but basically saying this is how it needs to be done. And at that point in time, it's very important to have those sane voices who can understand the context and who can smoothen out some of these issues that crop up every once in a while. Maybe I'm speaking to high level, but I gave you the example of compliance. That's a very real life example. When we were trying to sort of onboard with a bank, again, small issues regarding infosec, audits, some of those areas, right? Those turn out to be major roadblocks often, and you keep it till the end, not addressing it or figuring it out right up front. Also, it's very important to broad base the communication of these projects, right? Because what I have seen is if multiple people are aware of what's going on, some of the early defects or errors are called out in time, and that basically keeps you from further going down a path which is not going to lead you anywhere. So those are some of the pitfalls, I would say, at a high level. But yeah, I mean, again, going back to what I started by saying, if both the parties are aligned on the end objective and what they are seeking to achieve, then the project or the initiative usually comes through, in a good shape. Again, payments, which is the industry that I come from, that I represent, where I have worked mostly, that's an ecosystem play, Siddharth. And, sometimes even a bank and a fintech coming together and doing a great job is not enough, right? The problem may lie somewhere else. There are other elements of this whole chain, in the distribution. There is a merchant, there is a consumer, there is a consumer's bank, there is a merchant's bank, there is the network. And things could go wrong anywhere. Or there could be a complete misread of, the demand that exists in the market, which is why the best products sometimes take years to finally hit the scale that they were expected to hit. So that also a very important element, for the success or failure of a project, I would say.
No, absolutely, Amitabh, and thank you for such a comprehensive answer. In fact, as you were talking, I was just in my mind what was running in terms of some of our own partnerships which have been successful and some which probably have not been so successful. And I can't agree with you more. I think it's important to have common objective and common goals, and we can focus on things which are in our control. Because as you said, yeah, a lot of things can go wrong, but if we can control the controllables, have common objective, and communicate openly with an open mind, and have a senior level sponsorship right through. It's not just in terms of the day one where you agree to collaborate, but a senior level sponsorship right through, I think is important for a successful collaboration. In fact, just moving ahead, I would probably like to pull Connor into the discussion. Connor, given your, I would say, unique position in the panel as someone representing a non-Indian fintech, operating at a global scale, I'm sure some of our audience who would probably be from fintechs would be interested in knowing what are the key factors to keep in mind, when a fintech wants to expand their footprint in multiple geographies or multiple countries, let's say beyond India. Connor, sorry, are you on mute? Okay. I think probably Connor is having some technical issue. So till we get him back, maybe I'll just take it forward. So we spoke about collaboration, okay, but I think there is a certain aspect of competition between banks and fintechs which cannot be completely ignored. I think particularly in the space of payments. I think with the advent of payment banks, or even the ongoing transformation in the payment landscape, let's say the regulators intend to set up NUAs. So prior to your point, when you're talking about banks kind of providing the rails, now in fact we're kind of talking about maybe fintechs coming together and creating parallel rails. Okay, so with these kind of I would say transformational ideas being kind of taken forward in the ecosystem, moving forward, do you see the collaboration between banks and fintechs to continue strengthening further, or do you see competition overpowering this theme of collaboration? Maybe Amitabh, Priya, if you guys want to comment on it, given it's in the payment space.
Connor is back. I think Connor is back. I could hear him.
Yeah.
Connor?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi everybody. Hello,
So
sorry.
So maybe Connor will just
Sure,
come
sure.
back to you. Maybe Amitabh and Priya, if you want to comment on this point.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Priya, would you like to go first? Sure.
Yeah, maybe I'll go first. So obviously, I can only comment on it from a consumer, lending or BNPL standpoint. So definitely, what we are seeing in the BNPL segment, or buy now pay later segment, as it's now globally called. Firstly, this segment or this category almost has been recognized only in the last, I would say, 12 to maybe 18 months because of a few companies in the global arena going IPO and things like that. So but however, having said that, this category or this product has actually existed for a long time in the West, and even with us at ZestMoney, we've been in, we've had this product live for the last 5-6 years. But definitely what we are seeing is that there is a lot of interest around BNPL, and as a result of that, definitely now you see banks like even HDFC in their analyst presentations actively talking about how they are looking at BNPL, whether BNPL is a product that is interesting to them, and then they are also even in their analyst and investor presentations, they're talking about whether they want to compete directly with fintechs or they want to collaborate with them. So I definitely feel that the good thing that has happened in the last 4-5 years in India is that I think banks have definitely woken up to fintechs, right? And especially in the last 12 months post-COVID, they have also realized that, especially in the wake of the lockdowns, for example, that happened, that they just did not have even let's say the BCP or business continuity technologies in place to ensure that some of the, for example, when it pertains to lending, collections could happen on time, or their underwriting processes that were not fully automated, for example, that could happen on time, right? So as a result of that, what we have seen is that a lot of the banks have actively realized that they may not have the full technology suite to be able to provide the end-to-end, services that are required. Again, as I said, I'm speaking more in the sense of lending. I think in payments, there's definitely a lot more automation, and it is an ecosystem play, as Amitabh already pointed out. But there are other areas where banks started to realize that maybe they didn't have the full extent of digitization or the full capabilities to provide a completely digital product. And that's why I feel that right now it is a bit more on collaboration. I think, over time, we will see a few of the large banks become competition. Obviously, when I speak about ourselves or BNPL, we already have competition from the banks in the form of credit cards. But this is also quite an interesting point that globally the reason buy now pay later as a segment is really growing and has suddenly become a buzzword is because we do see globally this movement in millennials and young customers who are moving away from traditional form factors like credit cards and embracing buy now pay later as a product. So it also depends on which segment you are in and what exactly you're doing. Definitely, we feel in the lending scenario or consumer lending specifically that it is a mix of collaboration and competition. I would say the focus is a bit more on collaboration because, but then we are actively competing because, effectively buy now pay later is a product that is globally competing with credit cards. But I feel that, yeah, in general, the ecosystem in India is a lot more collaborative. So, fintechs in general are collaborative. We have always approached banks with an open mind and vice versa. So, but yeah, in general, I always feel that it is about the consumer. I do feel that form factors such as credit cards are a bit of an older technology, and definitely in India, we have seen consumers take on rapidly mobile-based technologies such as UPI, and definitely if banks are always relying on an older technology versus fintechs who are always relying on a newer technology, and if the consumer adoption is moving that way, then definitely we are sort of almost going against the grain and moving the consumer behavior towards a newer technology. So that's how I think about it. But at the moment, we're definitely all of us finding ways to collaborate with the bank.
Well, thanks, Priya. And Amitabh, if you don't mind, I think in interest of time, probably I'll go to Connor because I think that's a fairly relevant point, I'm sure, for our audience. So, Connor, to repeat the question which I had asked, being someone who's from a non-Indian fintech operating at a global scale, what are the factors which are important or a fintech which needs to keep in mind if they're really looking at scaling up beyond, let's say, India into multiple geographies and multiple countries?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, Siddharth, and great to be here. I think the key and most important thing to keep in mind is I suppose the relevance of your product or your service or the value that you're trying to provide to an audience, outside of India. That's really as simple as I can make it. If what you're doing is very specific to a geography, if it's very specific to a regulatory change or something that's happening within a country, you can hope that it happens elsewhere, and it may happen elsewhere, but you have very little control over that. So I think, first and foremost is to focus on, how relevant is what we're offering or plan to offer to users and customers and companies and potential partners outside of a geography. In this case, India. I think that buy now pay later is a great example. That's clearly something that has global appeal. It's something that's not just relevant to India in this case. However, it's an extremely competitive field, right? And you have to then factor in how you can compete in other markets when you go in there. I think to use, I suppose, our example, Cash Analytics example specifically, we're based in Ireland, so we're in a very small country with quite a small market. So most companies that start here start with a global outlook as a default because that's what we need to do. Because it's just focusing on our home market won't allow us to build a very big business. So that's where I suppose we're at a disadvantage in some ways in not having a large domestic market, but from going global or at least going into other countries, that has to be the starting point for us. And obviously slightly different in India where it's an enormous market. But I think it's all about the perspective at the starting point is what we're offering relevant to users and homogenous user groups outside of our home country.
I think that's an interesting insight, Connor. I think it all boils down to the problem statement you're solving, or the value proposition, and how universal or global that is in nature. I think that's the crux of really taking your fintech, multiple geographies. I just want to check, do you think collaboration with a global bank plays any role in terms of facilitating, taking your proposition to multiple geographies?
Yeah, absolutely, Siddharth, and I suppose the point has been made by pretty much all of the panelists around the natural scale that a bank brings, okay, and the infrastructures and the things that they've developed, the infrastructure and the things that they've developed over decades to support their customers in their home country, but also in particular for a bank like HSBC, which is one of the only few true global banks. They already have that global infrastructure in place. So to reach a truly global scale, absolutely collaboration with a global bank is a really, really good way to do that. It brings the obviously the credibility, which has been mentioned on a number of occasions, credibility in certain markets, because going global is great, but you still have to operate in individual markets when you do that. And going shoulder to shoulder with a bank or partnering with a bank gives you that natural credibility in that market, which may take quite some time to build up independently.
Thanks, Connor, for your insights. I'm afraid I think we've run out of time. I would have really loved to carry on with this conversation for a few more minutes. I really wanted to get everybody's perspective on a bit of a crystal ball gazing, but maybe that's for another day. Thank you again, everyone, for your time. Back to you, Garima.
Thank you, Siddharth, and thank you to all the panelists for being a part of this session. It was indeed a beautiful session and some great insights. I would also like to thank the delegates for joining in. And for the delegates and the speakers, here's a chance to become a proud owner of RuPay on the go. Please do visit the NPCI booth on our platform to apply for your complimentary RuPay on the go device. And you can just drop by to know more details about it. And thank you so much again to all the panelists for being a part of this session. And we'll be back shortly with yet another exciting session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Thanks.